Number one, I think I know your.
My
Oh yeah, I do know
number
your
one.
number one. You've hinted towards it too.
Yeah, my number one movie is... What's up, guys? Today we're doing another episode of our podcast, We Don't Know. And now today, the topic that we're going to be talking about, which we don't know... Well, we actually know more about it
do
than
know
other
more
topics,
about it,
I would
actually.
say. But today we are going to be talking about cinema and the joy that it is.
Cinema and the joy that it is.
Yes, in fact.
So, I think we start out with top 5 movies.
Top 5 movies. That
Top
is
5 movies.
solid.
Can you name your top 5 movies right now? I need a little. We should have thought about this more.
Hey,
But-
it's okay.
On the top of my head, I can get a rough. Top
I
5
feel
movies.
like I can also get, yeah. Let's work our way up together. All right.
Work our way up. So number one
So,
is
like,
last.
Yeah. So 5, 5, 4, 4, 3.
Okay. Are we doing? Okay. Are we doing just movies?
It's cinema,
Cinema.
which
So-
I think includes like shows and
Anime.
animation is cinema technically.
Anime. Okay. I'm putting my favorite anime in there. My
Okay.
couple favorite animes.
All right.
And these are some of my favorite just pieces of storytelling then. That's how I'm going to look at this.
I mean, that's really what movies are.
Movies.
Yeah.
So, okay, I know my top 3. Let me think of 2. 4 and 5. Do you have 4 and 5?
I think so.
Do you?
I think so.
Okay, you're going to go with your number 5 first.
Okay. All right. My number 5 is probably Winter Soldier.
Really?
Yeah.
Winter Soldier. Dude, I
Winter
haven't watched that
Soldier.
movie in a long time.
Dude, I love Winter Soldier. I've always had this affiliation with Captain America.
I know you have, because when we were in first grade, I remember you talking about
Uh-huh.
Captain America all the
Yeah,
time.
dude. He was my favorite. I mean, heck, I literally dressed up as him for more.
Oh, you did! I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
So, yeah.
That wasn't even. Wait, who'd you go with the more?
I went with... I need to find out.
Oh yeah.
I went with Rachel.
Oh yeah. Oh what?
Yeah.
What? I actually didn't know that.
Really? Yeah.
No.
She was...
That makes sense, but
Yeah, I went with Peggy Carter.
Peggy Carter. Oh, did she do that on purpose?
Yeah,
You guys,
that was
Captain
fun.
America and Rachel,
Mm-hmm.
or Captain America and Peggy Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I remember. I haven't watched Winter Soldier. I've seen the first one and Civil. I love Civil War.
Mhm. Yeah, Civil War is
Civil
also
War,
so
I
good.
love. I think that's one of the best Marvel movies,
Yeah.
just in general.
I love Civil War.
That and like Infinity War.
Civil War is great.
And then, yeah, I don't remember Winter Soldier.
It's like they discover...
They
that
discovered
Bucky-
Hydras and Shield.
Yeah, and Bucky's like still alive
Yeah.
and stuff, and he's not the only Winter Soldier. Like, there's other...
Oh,
experiments
yeah.
like him.
So
Yeah.
why?
Why do I like it?
Yeah, why is Winter Soldier your number 5 media?
I like it because it is a very, very good prequel to Captain America. Because...
Prequel? To Captain
Or,
America?
I mean, sequel, my bad.
Sequel.
My bad.
Okay.
Yeah. Because in the original Captain America, the first Avenger, he...
I miss
like-
old Marvel.
I know, dude. I want
I
to
miss
watch
old
him.
Marvel.
But you get to, like... You grow to love Captain America and Bucky's relationship.
It's true.
And, like... I don't know. It's just really... You get connected to them, too. So when... Spoiler, when Bucky, like, falls off the train...
Spoiler
No.
for a 10, 12-year-old movie.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, like, it's sad because there's also that feeling of just, like, the genuine connection between the two. And then, as guys, there's that, like, connection that we understand as
bromance.
men. Yeah, exactly.
The romance.
And then on top of that, there's the whole, like, fallen soldier,
Yeah.
like, aspect of it, of, like, honor and stuff. And bravery. And it just all plays into, like, this somber feeling of Bucky being left behind, you know?
Yeah.
So to know that he's still alive, and that he's like needs help and stuff, it's just really, really fulfilling to know that like, despite all of that Bucky stood for, Captain America still knew that he was a good guy, and he was willing to fight for him against the law. Multiple times. He does that in Civil War too.
He does do that in Civil War.
So like,
do you think it's as much of Winter Soldier specifically, or do you think it's just the Captain America trilogy?
Honestly, it might just be the Captain America trilogy. I think the like pinnacle of it, in my opinion, is in the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Even though like further down the road they actually become like more greater friends, I feel like in the Winter Soldier that's when it was the greatest moment for them, because that was the greatest
fight
around.
with them. Is it? It's on a building, isn't it? Yeah, or like
yeah.
It's that fight with them is actually sick. I remember
sick,
that.
yeah.
And the helicarriers falling and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I remember. Okay, now I'm remembering the movie.
Yeah,
that is a good one. I need to rewatch it.
I know, we should rewatch it.
I know.
But yeah, that's my number 5.
That's your number 5.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought of it. I think my number 5 was The Dark Knight.
I didn't think of those. Those
Really?
are so good.
I think my number 5 is The Dark Knight.
Wow.
For the most basic reasons that everyone has heard before. But because, like, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Heath Ledger.
Oh.
Joker. Like,
yeah.
I can't say anything that hasn't been said before.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's really good at showing. I actually love how Harvey Dent, Two-Face. I love showing, one, his downfall, 2, Batman's like conflict of trying to retire but get a new hero.
Yeah.
And then his ultimate sacrifice at the end, where he's like, well, for me to, what's the line? Like, he's the hero Gotham deserves, but not what it needs right now. Whatever, and he frames himself for all of Harvey's murders.
Yeah.
Like, it's near a masterpiece.
Yeah. That's true. I forgot about
so many quotable lines from one character.
So many. Literally, last night I was scrolling through Snapchat Spotlight.
It is.
And there was this one that came up about Joker, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, it's dead on.
Yeah, I know. And it's, like, it's so fun hearing, like, the stories of, what's the actor Rachel's name? I don't know. Rachel, the scene of Rachel and Joker at, like, the party.
Oh.
And, like, you...
Yeah.
Face. You've heard that story,
yeah,
right?
about how it was unscripted.
It was unscripted-ish.
Well,
like,
she didn't know.
Wasn't it her first time? It was, like, her first time seeing Joker. Seeing Heath Ledger.
I thought it was the first time seeing him with makeup.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It was, like, his first time seeing her, like, in character, like, on scene.
Yeah.
And he, like, goes above and beyond, is grabbing her, and she's, like, looking to the director for help.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, look at me. And it's, like...
Yeah, it's insane.
Scene. And she's, like, actually terrified, which just sells it.
I know. That's part of something that you really can't put a price on in cinema, is when actors aren't acting.
Oh, yeah.
That's when it's the
so
greatest.
True. And that's what's, like... It's crazy, because it feels like Joker isn't acting.
I know.
Like, in one of the most disturbing, but, like, emotional scenes is, like, the... when he's videoing the guy, and they're playing it on the news, and Joker's just laughing at him.
Yeah.
It's just, like, really, really, really creepy.
Yeah.
Because it feels so real. Like, it's just this crazy, psychotic man, like, torturing this guy just to...
Yeah.
It's so creepy, but he does such a good job at it, and it's one of the best performances in history.
Yeah, Heath Ledger does a really, at least in that, well, I shouldn't say at least. In his movies, he does an incredible job at making things feel realistic.
That's true.
Like, his ability to make you understand how it would feel to be in that situation, in my opinion, is unmatched.
That's true.
Just because of how him and Christian Bale.
Yeah.
I feel like those two people entirely take on the character. I don't know if you've seen the videos of Christian Bale's like weight loss and weight gain over time.
Oh yeah, for roles. Yeah, it's crazy.
His ability to control his body mass is incredible.
Yeah,
And his like,
because he went from, did he go? Which one was it? He went from really fat to really fit for the Batman movies.
Yeah.
Was it that?
He went from, I think it was like 250 to 180.
That's wild.
In less than a year.
Ouch, bro.
It's crazy.
Ouch, bro.
And he also, I can't remember the name of the movie, but he dropped down to like 120, 130 pounds.
Oh,
he
yeah.
like starved himself.
Yeah. He looks starved. Mm-hmm. He is starved.
Yeah, you can see, like, it's incredible. And then his next movie was a Batman movie. Yeah. And he was this jacked just Bruce Wayne, you know?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
No, you're right. And awful movie, but another good Christian Bale, like, kind of showing how good he is, was, have you seen Thor: Love and Thunder?
Yes, I have.
Bad movie. Bad movie, but
yeah.
Christian Bale was actually good.
No, he was incredible.
Because he was like, it made me so mad, because hearing he was casted and he was going to be the villain, I was so excited, and that was like the whole reason why I was excited for that movie was Christian Bale.
Yeah.
And then they just, I think he did as good as he could have.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't give him good.
That's a good point.
Stuff to work with, but like when he was trying to be creepy, I think it would have worked in different circumstances.
Yeah.
Like he was being creepy in the scene, but then he's just with a bunch of children and they all just start laughing and whatnot. You're like, well, it just ruins it.
Yeah.
Like, it was really close. Like, it was just a bad movie, but I think it showcases, like, if he was put in a good scenario, like, that villain would have been a really, really good villain.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was just...
Yeah,
I was
agree.
Severely disappointed, and I don't think it's Christian Bale's fault. I think it's the movie's fault.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's definitely more of a comedy based movie, and he's never
really hasn't done really comedy.
That. And even his role in it wasn't to be comedy.
No, it wasn't. His
role was to be the sentimental villain who has a side to the story.
I don't think he needed to be the sentimental villain in that movie, though. Yeah, because everyone loves a sentimental villain, but what I kind of wanted from him was the creepy, I'm just going to kill gods kind of character.
Yeah.
But they made him like, oh, he lost his daughter and he just wants his daughter back. Which I'm like, oh, I feel for you. But, like, I don't think that's what the character needed and how it needed to be portrayed.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Just a showcase of how downhill Marvel's gone. With a few exceptions, but Marvel's gone downhill.
I agree. They have more of a political agenda than a social agenda.
It's true. But Moon Knight's good. You still haven't watched Moon Knight, have you?
Watched Moon Knight.
I love Moon Knight.
I have not.
Moon Knight's so good.
Yeah,
Ending's alright, but like the penultimate episode 5, one of the greatest episodes I've ever seen.
Really?
So good.
Honestly,
I actually cried. We watched it as a friend group. Were you not there?
I remember I've seen some, but I don't know if I was there when.
We watched the second to last episode as a friend group, and I actually cried.
Really?
I love episode 5 of Moon Knight. It's so good.
Oh, that's very cool.
Specifically episode 5 of Moon Knight. Okay. Well, The Dark Knight. That is my number 5.
Alright, that's good. Okay, so my number 4... I have to choose between two on this one.
You have to choose between two?
Yeah.
Then wouldn't the one you didn't choose be your number 5?
Well, no, like they tie it for 4th.
But okay, if they tie for 4th, is the one you pick over it like kicking it out of the top 5 completely?
I was gonna have an honorable mention.
Okay. Yeah, actually, okay, honorable mentions. We do need those.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. I need to think of an honorable mention.
Yeah. I'm thinking that for my number 4 spot that I'll lock in is Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy. You would know.
Oh, I forgot about Tron,
dude,
bro.
Tron Legacy. It is good enough to watch just for the soundtrack. Daft Punk. My Spotify Wrapped for 2023 I was within the top 0.5% of listeners for Daft Punk.
For Daft Punk because of Tron Legacy?
Yes, because
oh
of
my
Tron Legacy.
gosh.
Outside of Tron Legacy, I probably only have 3 songs that I listen to from Daft Punk. And I was within the 0.05% of listeners. Yeah.
Holy heck.
I love it.
In what scenario are you listening to the Tron Legacy soundtrack?
Listen to it, and you will find that you can listen to it in literally any scenario.
You just...
It fits
during
all
homework,
It fits all yeah. Literally, during homework, Tron Legacy, all the time.
Really?
It just itches that attentive side of my
I do
brain.
have a playlist full of like movie and video game music that I listen to while I'm doing homework.
Yeah, I do too.
It has like the Batman theme in there. Then it also has Real Steel. Never mind. I have to change my top 5.
Oh. Real Steel's good. I don't know if it's like top 5.
It's top 5. We'll get to it.
At least for me.
For me, we'll get to it, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
Dang, wait, maybe I need to adjust. Sorry, continue talking about Tron. I even forgot what I was talking about.
I just love Tron because I feel like that movie was so ahead of its time. Like,
when did that movie come out? Tron Legacy.
It came out I want to say 2009, but I think that's wrong.
Well, I like Tron Legacy because I remember watching it and liking it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have nearly the emotional investment you do in it, but this is our first memory together.
I know.
Is Tron Legacy is our very first memory.
It's true, it is.
It was kindergarten, day 1 kindergarten.
Yeah.
We go in line. We have our picture.
Mm-hmm.
There's the picture of us.
Yeah.
Day 1 of kindergarten. Emily's in the background.
Yeah,
of that picture.
In the background. Yeah.
And I have my little Cars backpack. I just remember that. And then, what was it? Did we just turn around and talk to each other?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Did I talk to you? Happened. Did you talk to me?
I don't remember. One of us
reached out. And
one of us
you
turned
around
friends? And straight up said, "Hi, my name's Austin."
Austin or Tate. Or
and I said, "Oh, hi, my name's Tate." And then the other person said, "Do you want to be my friend?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Yeah. And so we were just friends because we decided that we were just gonna be friends.
Oh, if friends were that simple now, bro.
I know. That would be
because I remember. Yeah, we said, "Hey, want to be friends?" And then we were friends, and we just started. I don't even know how we started talking. Like what? Like, where do you even go from there?
I don't know. I guess
like, hey, you want to be friends? Yeah. Like, how do you start a conversation from that? I now don't know how to do that.
I know. I guess it's just part of that purity of being a little kid.
Child.
You just don't care about social pressure. Like, social pressure doesn't exist as a little kid.
No, you're right.
Unless if you're, like, some very, mentally mature kid.
I guess, yeah.
You really don't worry about, like, social pressure.
This is true.
So it's just easy to make friends.
I think kids are so fascinating, bro.
Kids are incredible, dude.
It's so crazy how stupid and smart they are.
That's a good point. That's a great way to put it.
Like, because they're kids. They're not smart. But, like, at the same time, they're, like, way smarter than you would think they would be.
Yeah, incredibly.
One of my favorite animes, not on this list. Romance anime, I know. Fruits Basket. Banger show. But one of the episodes is, like, it's talking about... It's very fascinating. Because the main character, it's like flashbacks, and they're like, I thought this was really cool because it's kind of relatable. It was how much adults kind of belittle little kids and like how they dumb down what they're talking about because they're like, oh, kids won't understand. And a lot of the time, like, they do.
Yeah.
Like, they do understand way better than you would think they do. And like the main girl, like, her parents die. And, like, they're just trying to, like, kind of dumb it down. Like, oh, she's just a little kid. She doesn't really understand what loss is. But, like, she does. I'm like, of course a kid would. Like, they feel, too.
That's true.
And it's just... They understand, maybe not intelligence, but emotions. I think they understand emotions a lot better and more than we give kids credit to.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's just interesting.
I feel like a kid's capacity to feel emotion is no less than a fully grown adult's ability to feel emotion.
And that's what I think people don't realize.
Yeah.
Is they kind of just don't treat a kid's emotions as real because they're a kid. But I really do think it's just they feel just as much and understand-ish to an extent as much of their feelings as we would.
Yeah. I feel like people kind of like take this idea of kids not understanding how to process emotions, and that kind of covers the truth that kids still in fact feel emotion.
Yeah.
They say, oh, they're too young enough to process it, so therefore their emotions either don't exist or aren't as great as mine.
Yeah.
When in reality, kids can have incredible emotions because they're figuring out which emotions are which, you know?
Yeah.
At one point, everybody had to have learned that there's a difference between happy and sad, right?
Yeah.
Confused and understanding, hot and cold, things like that. So, I mean, wouldn't your first experience be the greatest experience ever?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I definitely agree that little kids are, if anything, they are more emotionally connected than adults. Yeah. They just don't have a way to communicate that or to process it yet.
Well, I think it's really fascinating. It's just, in general, I think adults, which is, I'm so scared of becoming this way myself when I'm an adult and my 40s and whatnot. But like they just kind of disregard anyone's opinions if you're under the age of like 20.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like this show I think very highlights it. I think if you've played Persona 5, that very much is like the main premise of the game. You're a bunch of teenagers trying to make a difference in a world run by adults. And I think that's just a very fascinating concept because it's like to an extent I do think that's true. You kind of forget that people below the age of 20 are also just as much of a person as you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Age doesn't really define.
I mean, obviously, there's maturity. You grow as you grow up.
Yeah.
But like, to the bone, like we're all people, and this 5-year-old I've never met before that, like, he's going to be just as much of a person as I am now, and he's just as much of a person now as I am now.
It's true.
Which is so weird.
That is kind of strange
like,
to think about.
Working at the daycare and holding these babies, like, bro, this kid that I will not see ever again after I quit this job is just as much as a person as I am, and is going to go through very similar things or very different things as to what I'm going through now. He's gonna go through a breakup. He's gonna it's just wild.
Kinda, it makes you feel very protective.
Yeah.
But that brings up the question of protection over experience, you know? Would you rather... I was thinking about this the other day because I watched Lilo and Stitch for the first time in my life. Fun fact. Cinema.
Lilo and Stitch.
And the art style of that movie, for its age, it seems to be very more, I won't say provocative, but it's definitely more, it's a modern art style of modesty is what I'll say.
Okay.
I feel like that's the best way for me.
I get your message, I think.
And so I was watching it, and I was thinking about my little brother who's 7 and my little sister who's 9, and I realized that in my home we really don't, like, that's not a kind of media that we see that much.
Yeah.
Our intake of movies and TV shows and media is very modest and very controlled. And so that made me think, like, I wonder how they feel about this because they're not introduced to this that much. And that made me wonder, would it be better as a parent to
expose your kids
so that it's not as a shock and they understand more about it? Or do you limit it from them to protect it from them and risk a shock?
I think there's very much that mindset is very similar to the mindset of, do I give my kid a phone?
Yes, entirely.
Because one, I think you do. Because it's just our world now. Our world, because now what's blowing my mind is my cousin who's in 5th grade has a phone now. Even younger, my cousin who's 1st grade just got an Apple Watch for Christmas.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So like, it's just becoming much more normalized to get good technology, whether it's Apple Watches, phones, whatnot, even younger and younger.
Yeah.
I mean, iPad kids are a thing.
Yeah.
iPad babies. Like, it's just very normalized. So I think that's how the world is. You need to introduce your kids to that. It's just about, and I do think they need to make their own mistakes with it too. They need to get into some trouble. On media or whatnot, because that's how we're gonna learn, and there's a lot more accessible because of media, social media now. So but there's also that balance where, like, I do want to protect my future kid as much as possible. Because I'm not gonna give them a phone and encourage them to do everything and find everything. Like, I want to protect them as much as possible, but also not inhibit them so much where
that's gonna be a hard line to balance on as a parent.
Very much. And it's interesting just seeing how different families I know have handled it, how my parents have handled it, and how some of our friends' parents have handled it. Because in our friend group, you can see how just other families have. Rachel has handled it very differently. Even Tristan's family has handled it very differently.
I see that.
And I, to some extent, I see some negative side effects to how some of our friends have. And that's up to interpretation. So I'm not going to say who I think it is or whatnot. Maybe you can get the idea. But I do see how maybe a lack of having it for so long has hurt them now.
Yeah, that's true. I was thinking, I feel like the greatest comparison in this aspect is between Rachel and Joe.
Rachel and Joe.
Yeah.
Oh, on complete opposites?
Yeah, on the two sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Like, but it's interesting because they both, like, you can definitely tell the difference in their character. You 100% can tell. You can see the impact that it's had on who they are, but they've still objectively chosen to be good people.
Yeah.
But then comes the definition of a good person.
Good person. Oh,
because they're good people, but like you could.
Okay, can we hold? Actually, I don't know. A good person. Okay. I don't want to. Okay, this is the top 5, and this question has to do with one of my stuff.
Is it the view of is good and is bad bad?
Yeah.
That's a good topic.
It's is good is bad.
Dude,
what makes a good person?
Yeah.
A bunch of these questions are given, and not really answered because they're tough questions to answer.
Yeah. 100%.
But they're given into in my top 5 that we'll get to. So I want to talk about it. But there's so much in that show that I don't know if I will come back to this. But this is such a fascinating.
I love this topic. If we get back on it, that'll be good. But if not, we'll put it in notes for another.
We'll maybe this will be an episode because I do love that topic.
Maybe.
It
is
great. We'll put a pin in it and we'll go back to what this episode's about. Top 5. Where were you at? Tron Legacy?
Yeah, I was at
Tron Legacy, baby.
Tron, woo!
We got off topic from that one.
Yeah. You're fourth.
I'm fourth. My fourth? This is a movie that came out last year now. It's 2024, baby.
Woo!
And I've only seen it once, but the feeling it gave me was crazy. And it was The Covenant.
The Covenant?
Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. War movie.
I have not seen it.
I loved it. It was so Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. You know about the war in Afghanistan, right?
Yes.
Been going on for 20, 25 years, something like that.
Yeah, a long time.
And my dad has a very personable story about what this movie's about. So what happens is, so they send the U.S. soldiers to Afghanistan, and what they would do is, the U.S. soldiers don't speak.
Right.
Whatever. Afghani? Is that a language? Spanish?
So.
Do they speak Spanish? I don't know.
Spanish?
I don't know!
Spanish in the Middle East?
I don't know! Afghani? Is that a language? Is that how you'd say it if it is a language?
Afghan? I don't know.
Afghanistan?
We don't know.
You don't know. Anyway, so what they would do is they would basically hire local civilians from Afghanistan to be interpreters.
Oh.
So they'd strap them up in all the U.S. Army stuff, and they would just communicate with the terrorists and stuff like that.
Right.
And in return, they would give them refuge in America.
Oh,
So once they're done serving in Afghanistan, they'd take them to America and give them home.
Right.
And citizenship and whatnot.
Yeah.
But what happened a lot of times, they kind of just screwed the interpreters over. And they're just like, oh, thank you, and they would help them, and then they just leave them. And now they're enemy of their own country. Yeah. And so everyone would hate them because they would call them traitors and whatnot, and they were always on the run. And it's just devastating seeing this. Yeah. And so the movie is Jake Gyllenhaal, and I don't know who the interpreter is played by, but Jake Gyllenhaal goes into Afghanistan. He gets an interpreter. His interpreter saves his life in a battle, and it is just, and they lost their truck. They're miles and miles away, and it's just crazy. So he saves his life. He hikes him. The interpreter just hikes him. It's just him and the interpreter. Hikes him over mountains for miles and miles. Whoa. Finally gets back to the Air Force, whatever, military base. And it's just the most emotional thing ever. And then America screws over his interpreter, and the rest of the movie is just him trying to get the interpreter and his family a home in America. Right. Yeah. And it's just the dialogue, the emotion, the action even it's great action, but it's very emotional, and the music was insane. Like, there's one specific scene where Jake Gyllenhaal is like, he's injured, so he's like hallucinating, but then he's remembering all the things that the interpreter did to save him. The way they do it and the cinematography of it and the music is just one of the most emotional movie scenes I've ever watched. Yeah. And so it's just, and to top that all off, my dad, on his show, one of their shows that day, they were on air live with an interpreter on the run. Whoa. And they canceled everything. They canceled their other segments. They canceled their commercial breaks just because of this very unique situation they were in. Yeah. Where watching this interpreter in the movie, he was just like, that's the exact same situation that the interpreter I was on air with. Whoa. So my dad was like talking to someone in this exact situation of this movie.
That's crazy.
So it was just, I loved it.
That is crazy.
Crazy movie. And not enough people are talking about it.
I'll wanna watch that.
I loved it.
That's pretty cool.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Little bitty baby side note.
Baby.
When you mentioned music.
Music?
Okay, music makes or breaks. I talked about Tron.
That's true.
Tron.
That's true.
Punk. I have 4 things that I believe make or break a movie.
That's true. Okay.
1, actors.
Actors. Agree.
2, cinematography.
Agree.
3, how realistic it is.
Agree. And then music.
And 4, music.
I agree with all that.
I feel like those things.
What
if
I think
you can get good with those 4 things, your movie's gonna be
I think there was a really interesting balance with music, because I think music can rather if it's really really bad, it'll ruin it.
Yeah.
If it's really really good, it enhances it like tenfold
entirely.
But I also think it can be like average and just blend in.
Mm-hmm. That's what makes a good musician. If you listen to soundtracks of movies where Hans Zimmer has written for,
that's true.
Or I think it's Jake Powell. I think that's wrong. Whoever writes for DreamWorks, but I legitimately, if you listen to Hans Zimmer write, like his music for Kung Fu Panda 2, or his music for Inception, I believe. No, he doesn't write Inception. But we'll use specifically Kung Fu Panda 2.
Okay.
He is incredible at taking a theme and working it into so many different forms.
Music.
And at the same time, he can create filler music. He can create sad music. He can create confused music.
Yeah.
Exciting. He can cover any emotion using music. And not only does he do that for Kung Fu Panda 2, which is obviously it's a very Chinese-oriented movie, right? But he also does that for Interstellar, which is a space movie. He also does it for what else does he do for? Well, he does it for Dunkirk.
Oh yeah.
Which is a World War II war movie.
Yeah.
Like he covers multiple genres, multiple cultures. You know.
Yeah.
His music can like bring up emotions while connecting to the theme and enhancing the subject of the story, and that's why I believe he is such a big producer, because he is extremely versatile in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I agree. Well, what I was kind of saying where it blends in to a fault is like if it's an action scene and it's not it's not notable. Like imagine if actually I'm using this as an example. Avengers Endgame's final battle.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't tell you what music was playing in there.
I could.
Could you?
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's to a fault. Maybe I wasn't paying attention enough. But
you mean like during the actual battle? During the actual battle, like where I think maybe it's just been so long since I've watched Avengers Endgame. Maybe.
But in just a scene like that where it's already a great scene because so much has led up to that battle. Mm-hmm. So it's already just good, just because you know what's at stake. But where it could be even taken further is with music. I agree with that. Maybe it is. Maybe I need to rewatch it. Uh-huh. Do you agree that do you think the music emphasizes it?
I believe it does.
Okay. Yeah. Then maybe disregard everything I'm saying. But like to a fault where like maybe it just matches the battle.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make it worse, but it doesn't make it better either.
It just supports it.
It just supports it.
Yeah.
Which I think is good.
Yeah, I think it's
but
good.
It doesn't make it better.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. Maybe Avengers Endgame is a bad example of that, but I do think there's other examples
I see what you're saying.
That.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, the amount of like impact music has in anything.
It does so much. And it's
like it's incredible. Have you like seen the Instagram reels about like movie scenes where they switch the music?
Yeah.
Where like they put like
well, even that Avengers Endgame battle, I saw the one where they like when every character like got introduced, they did a remix of like all the characters' themes and stuff.
Oh, really?
It was like Black Panther walked in, Black Panther's theme did a little part, and then Doctor Strange came in, and Spider-Man came in, and it was awesome. And I'm like,
that's really
that
cool.
would have been so memorable.
Yeah.
And so sick to see that in theaters.
Yeah.
And from having something like that to but I can't tell you what song was playing during Avengers Final Battle. So like it's stuff like that. And as we go up the list, our list, like music is just another thing I praise to death about our later.
That is true. That's a good point. Yeah.
But anyway, the music and that scene of Covenant, it was just Covenant's great.
Yeah.
Love Covenant.
Yeah, Covenant is good. Okay, third. Number 3. For me, number 3 is Ford vs. Ferrari.
Ford vs. Ferrari?
Ford vs. Ferrari. I love that movie. A big part of it is I really love cars.
You are a big car
person.
person.
Love cars. And above cars,
you're talking to a man whose first words were "I fast."
It's true. You remember that?
I do.
Oh my gosh, I'm surprised
that.
you remember that. That is adorable. But yeah, I've always loved cars. But on top of loving cars, I love motorsport. I love F1. F1 is incredible. I love 24 Hours. Anything Nürburgring, I love. I love all that stuff. Endurance, Grand Touring, all those things. MotoGP even. That stuff's cool. But with Ford vs. Ferrari, it emphasizes a historical moment in motorsport, which was when Ford, an American company that was making very mid cars for the American people on assembly lines, they had never done anything racing. In terms of Ferrari and Lamborghini and other cars like Porsche and Mercedes and Maserati, they were very young. Ford was very, very young compared to all those European companies. And so this story is about the CEO of Ford decided that they wanted to start racing in Le Mans. And Le Mans is a 24-hour endurance race. And it is famous for the endurance and how difficult it is, because it being 24 hours, you have to have multiple racers. You have to have multiple cars. Because back then, cars broke.
Yeah.
It was expected for cars to break. Nowadays, yeah, a car might break, but there's usually only maybe 1 or 2 extra cars. And most of the time, it's a rare occurrence. And so, it's just this incredible story of how this man, Shelby, I forget his first name, he was asked to create Ford a racing car to race in Le Mans. Ford had never done anything like that before. And this man came up with a car, not a design, but a car in 108 hours.
Really?
108 hours he had a car ready to be tested to
wow.
race. And that car was the Ford GT Mark I. And as important as the car was the actual racer.
Yeah, of course.
And I forget the racer's name. It's Miles. Something Miles.
Morales.
Hey, we'll get to him. Don't worry. But basically this racer, he's English, I believe. And he's a mechanic. And it's just this incredible story of him learning about this car and blowing everybody's minds.
Really?
Because this racer Miles, he tries to be a racer, but he's in a tight situation for it. He'll do like weekend races, but he's never really gotten more than that.
Yeah.
And so when he's proposed with the opportunity to race for Ford, which is, you know, like, strange to race for Ford, but he's going to Le Mans, and he gets to customize the car to be his own, pretty much.
That's hype.
It is incredible. And Miles is played by Christian Bale.
Oh, so is it really?
Yeah. So it is incredible. He is an incredible actor. And Shelby is played by Matt Damon.
Really?
So their connection is incredible.
Oh, that's fun.
And the story of Miles fulfilling his dream to be on number 1, and there's multiple twists in the end that break your heart, but it just connects you more to the characters. And I just love everything about it. It's really cool.
I've never heard of that movie ever.
You should watch it. Dude.
I'm sold.
So good.
I'm sold, but I've
incredible.
never heard of that movie.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's really good.
I assume music and stuff is great
Mm-hmm.
in it as well. Just
Actually, with that movie, the music was kind of a lesser factor, which
Really?
is rare.
really.
I feel like for me,
Is that kind of what I was saying with like we're just
Yeah.
it blended in?
Exactly. It never obviously the music emphasized the scenes in some parts, but it was never like admiral music.
Yeah.
Like
Where
like,
it blended
was-
in so good, not to a fault, but not where it enhanced it
yeah.
astronomically.
Yes, exactly. That was a rare occurrence for me because I usually analyze music in cinema.
You
a
are
lot
a big music
because yeah. So I realized that when I was like, oh, I'll do this for my top 3, I was like, wow, like
guy.
music.
This doesn't have a music thing.
Yeah, I guess just my love of motorsport and the history.
There's a lot
and
more love that goes into
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale.
All those things.
That
just
attractive
made me
man.
love it.
Alright.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. I'll add that to the watch list because I have a watch list of movies I want to watch
yeah.
before I leave. But
Yeah, that's good.
I'll add it to them.
Mhm.
My number 3 is number 1 movie of all time, not number 1 story or medium,
Okay.
but number 1 movie,
Okay.
Inception.
Yes. Yes, Inception is amazing.
Inception is my favorite movie.
Oh, I love Christopher Nolan, dude.
Christopher Nolan,
Christopher Nolan is
amazing director.
Yeah.
He just does so many fun stuff with I don't know, his movies, his just everything.
Yeah.
And his concepts for movies are just super fascinating and
Mm-hmm.
in depth, and they're thought out. They're very well thought out.
Yeah.
They're
They're incredibly
they're
well thought out.
complex, but
Incredibly complex.
like also, I think this is why I like Inception better than like Interstellar.
Mm.
Is it is complex, but it's also simple enough for you to get it on a first watch.
Yeah.
If you're, because Interstellar, that was kind of my problem with it, is I love Interstellar music, everything,
Uh-huh.
but it took me a couple watches to understand it,
Yeah.
and understand it to a way like I can still talk. That's why I love it, Interstellar, is because you can talk about it, and
Uh-huh.
that's what I love about. That's something important to me about just any movie or media, anything. I need to be able to talk about it and have an in-depth conversation about it afterwards, and Interstellar does that for me.
Yes, it does.
But it's just it's a little too complex
Mhm.
for me.
I get that.
But Inception, I think, does the perfect balance of that.
Yeah.
Where,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
if you are paying attention and trying to focus and whatnot, and kind of playing the mind games that this story is telling, like,
Mhm.
you can understand it.
Yeah.
But the great thing about it is you can understand it, and then there's still the argument about the ending.
Yes.
Is the ending
Sure.
real or fake? And
that is very
and it
controversial.
gives, and it's, you can have just such a fascinating conversation about
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
forever afterwards. And that's
Mhm.
why I think Inception does everything I look for in TV shows, and this is what my top 2 do very well. But kind of a reason why I like them better is because I think just the TV show format is able to do that a lot better, because you can tell stories longer and whatnot.
That's a good point.
But for being a 2-hour movie, I think it does it near perfectly.
I think it does a good job too.
And it's just it's so fun. The first time I'm actually so lucky. The first time I watched Inception was in theaters
Uh-huh.
when I was in 2020 or 2021.
Oh, really?
So it was 10 years. It was like the 10-year anniversary, and like theaters are it's post COVID, still COVID, and they're just trying to get people back in the theaters.
Yeah.
So for Inception's 10-year anniversary, they put it back in theaters.
That's sick.
And my dad's like, "Oh, you'll love this movie," and so we went
Man,
and saw
I
it.
would have loved to watch it. In
Yeah,
theaters.
and so my first experience with Inception was in theaters, but I was also old enough to like stuff like this,
Uh-huh.
because like I guarantee wouldn't have liked something like this at 10 years old, but I was 15, 16 when I saw it for the first time, and it was just so good. And music, obviously amazing.
Music is incredible.
Music's-
Got that on my playlist.
Yeah, of course, who doesn't?
Yeah.
But I think it does everything near perfectly.
Yeah. I totally love that not understanding concept of a movie.
It makes it so. That's what I ended up figuring out. I love about movies and media is I like kind of playing them as a game in my brain because I love problem solving in general. And when I'm bored at work at my retail store, I'll just make up problems and solve it. That's why I love figuring out like how much money I have or not because that's fun to me. Yeah. And having a movie that does that for me and shows and whatnot, it makes it so much more enjoyable because now I'm kind of active in this movie.
Right. Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah.
Oh, and the movies. I showed you this video. I sent it to our group chat. Our guys, the OGs, where it's Inception, but everything happens at once.
Yeah.
In real time. It was like just
that is sick.
It was so cool.
That is really cool.
It just showed like the snow dream and then the hotel dream, whatever. It's just so cool. And just being able to watch a movie like that and see it in that like 5-minute movie clip of everything just happening, it was so cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I love that video.
Inception is incredible. I love that.
Love Inception.
Yeah. For my number 2 spot, it's a little agonizing just because it's such a good movie, but I don't want to give it the credit that my number 1 deserves.
Okay.
Because it's so recent. I feel like it needs time to
I think I got it then.
But it's 100% Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Real? That's your number 2
That's
movie
number
of
2.
all time.
All time.
Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Dude, you saw me after the theater.
I did. I did. We talked about it.
I legitimately didn't speak for like only half an hour.
Wild. I mean, I loved that movie.
Oh my!
And I know I loved it a lot more
than so much. It's got
because that movie's gotten a fair amount of hate.
Yeah.
It's gotten a fair amount of hate.
And I can see why. I can totally see why.
That's the thing is I can see the hate and I kind of agree with it to some extent. That's why I don't put it as high.
Yeah.
But I still think pros outweigh the cons, and I still loved that movie.
Yeah.
I loved that movie.
It's an incredible movie.
But number 2 of all time.
All time.
Wow.
The cinematography is incredible in my opinion. I love the theme. I love dystopian.
Yeah.
I love the Hunger Games. But when it's combined with like a historical context of a dystopian theme where they're just rebuilding from the original war that created Panem the way that we know it in all the districts, that is crazy. And like we got to watch in that movie, you get to watch the growth of the Panem that we know from the original Hunger Games
books,
and that just speaks to me so much. Because I love all the different universes that you can take from one story, and the reason why is time periods. That's why I think Ford vs Ferrari was so incredible, because they could make a futuristic racing movie, and I'd probably love it just as much if they do a good job of it. You know? Like that was a big part as to why it's my second choice. Is just it's like a very normal story, but they did such a good job at shifting the time period and making it realistic. And there was lots of other things that go into it, like the music. Lucy Gray. She does an incredible job. I know that's not her actual name. It's like Rachel Ziegler, I think, is
something like that.
Something like that. I don't know.
Later, I know that.
But it's just so good, and the props were incredible. I remember after watching it, the Peacekeepers uniforms just stuck in my mind. Of all things,
you really liked
the
those.
Peacekeepers uniforms and the sounds of the guns. Maybe it was just because it had been a long time since I had heard a gun been shot in a movie theater, but it just...
Yeah, you loved that.
They're like those fireworks that are like the yellow ones that are like they just shake the ground. It's just this like thud in your chest. I loved it. It was just so good, and I loved the theme. I loved the message that it portrayed.
I just loved the... where I do think it fumbled a little bit, but the descent into madness. that Snow.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was the most, and
That's true.
figuring out if he's trying to be a good guy, if he loves Lucy Gray and that's above all, or if he loves his family most of all, or like I loved that about Snow, and you ended up really liking Snow as a character, which I think is really good. Like that's what in a movie like that where you know he's the villain, you need to make him likable, which they did. And on top of all of that, he looks like our friend.
Yeah,
which just made it so much
like
funner. He looks exactly like our friend.
Yeah, I loved the fact that it was a villain's origin story.
It was
because it was set
villains
up
are
to
always
be
the most fascinating.
Yeah,
things of a story.
It was set up
often,
perfectly.
More often than not, I like the villain more than the protagonist.
Yeah,
so
it was set up perfectly to be a hero story. But you watch over the course of the film, you watch his protagonist approach to things degrade as he makes this choice, and that leads into another choice and another choice, and eventually his choices pile up to put him into this situation where he's pressured into becoming the person that he doesn't want to be.
That's true.
And that's where he finds peace. He finds peace by giving into the pressure to become what he thinks he shouldn't be.
That's true.
That is what I like about it. Is that you take a likable character, put him in a realistic situation, a believable situation, watch him fumble as a human, and see how easily you can digress your moral standards.
That's true.
I mean, it's a horrifying thought.
It is.
But the fact that they did it so well makes me enjoy it.
Yeah.
I've literally said once I walked, like when we got back from the movie theater, I said I've never wanted to be evil more. Like,
yeah.
I've never wanted to be more evil in my life. And that's because it almost makes looking evil be desirable because
it very much put it in a way where it makes sense becoming evil.
Yeah. I love that.
And that's what I love about a villain.
Yeah.
It makes me, because honestly, Snow is a forgettable villain
in the originals,
in the
yeah.
original.
For sure.
Like, I didn't care about Snow at all. But because we've been rewatching the Hunger Games since that movie, I'm like, I see him in a different light, most definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's,
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you on any of it.
Yeah. Another reason why it spoke out so much to me was I had just read the book Frankenstein by Mary Shelley.
Oh.
And in that book, you get to watch how a genuine passion for something natural and like pure, like a pure passion for something good, drive a man into total despair and ruin and death.
Yeah.
By just loving something good. And loving it too much. And so after I read that book, that theme was kind of in my mind, and so watching the Hunger Games I was like, oh my gosh, this is the exact same thing. We're watching somebody with like pure intentions get faced with, like, he was like following his passion. He just wants to save his family, you know.
Yeah.
He wants to become somebody.
Yeah.
And you watch his choices as a human slowly take him away to the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie again?
Which one?
Songbirds.
Songbirds?
Have you seen it since we saw it with our friends?
I have not.
I'll say it's good. It's still good on a rewatch.
Yeah, I bet it is.
It was, because that's the thing that also helps you realize if something's good or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if it.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's, very much how I don't know how I feel about The Covenant yet. As much as I just talked about it, I haven't seen it a second time.
Right. Yeah.
So I really do need to watch. It could go down my list.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe something else could replace it. But if it it's good on a rewatch.
That's a good way to judge a movie. Yeah.
And that's, what I love about. Yeah, we'll get to it. Yeah. So number 2, Songbirds and Snakes.
Yeah.
So my number 2 is I guess we can get into this now about rewatching. Vinland Saga.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
It's that good.
I love Vinland Saga.
Wow.
Love.
I mean, I knew you loved it, but I didn't know it was that
Dude, it's the first show since my number one show, you know what it is by now, obviously. But since
I think they do.
they probably do too. I've talked about it. So anyway, it's the first show that has been able to give me such intense feelings about stuff since my number one.
Right.
And I just finished Vinland Saga with Tristan and John.
Yeah.
Last night.
Oh, you finished it?
We finished it.
Was that the video that you sent?
Yeah. Yeah, that was that scene. Oh, the video I sent it because that scene. Holy heck! But it's just so good. And rewatching it, it's very much a lot of things I can say about this. I can say also about my number one, like what you're like. Well, you said that too.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. But
like on a rewatch, it's almost as if it's a different experience, which I love. Yeah. Especially even for my number one show. Rewatching it was almost because you knew what was happening now, because you've experienced the story, but then you're seeing it set up to itself. Yeah. And how good it was at foreshadowing that you didn't even realize, and it's basically a completely different experience rewatching the show. And not saying it's worse, it's like in some ways it's even better. Where I enjoyed my rewatch of it more than my first time watching it. Wow. Like the big emotional beats and stuff like that, and super emotional. Like nothing will top those than the first time rewatching it. Yeah. But the much lesser scenes, like I enjoyed those more the second time.
Yeah. You know, real quickly, what other show does a great job of enjoying it with the rewatch? Is Psych.
That's for very different reasons.
I know, but very different. I'm just going to say right now, I'm not going to intrude. Psych, honorable mention for me.
That's your honorable mention?
One of them.
One of them?
I love Psych.
Psych is so
I can watch it all day. But, like, yeah, I totally get that. Like, rewatching, you can enjoy it more after rewatching. And Psych is one of those shows that I can enjoy rewatching.
Psych is a very good rewatch show. Because it's just
most of the time, they're not even acting. Most of the time, it's just Sean and Gus being themselves, unscripted.
It is true.
But
Psych's a really fun show. I think that's just the best way to talk about it. It's really fun.
Yeah, 100%.
But Vinland Saga, I think it does the best of, honestly, probably of character storytelling I've ever seen. Of the main character goes. You could write two separate characters off of him. Like, the season 1 Thorfinn, main character, is a different character than season 2 Thorfinn. But they do so good at meshing them and seeing how you went from season 1 to season 2. It's like, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And you're like, yeah, that, like, I see how he went from that, and I see... And it's realistic. You're like, oh, like, if I was in his situation, I probably, would do the same things he did, and hopefully I would come to the same conclusion as he did. Yeah. Because, like, you know that I have no enemies. That's the meme that we've been talking up. And that's, because in season 1, he's a vengeance-thirsty warrior.
Right.
Spoiler-ish, but episode, 4, his dad is murdered.
Yeah.
And he is taken in by his murderer, who's a Viking, and he lives the next 16 years of his life as a Viking, trying as a mentor to his murderer, his dad's murderer, with the sole goal of beating him in a duel. Right. He wants to eventually become strong enough to beat his dad's murderer in a duel. Yeah.
His own mentor.
And just seeing how that story, because that's all season 1, and seeing how that story arc, that final episode, you go into that final episode with so many questions. I think Vinland Saga does this with both seasons, which I think is crazy. That one, that it did it so well, and 2, that it did it twice. Right. Where you go into the final episode, so many questions, and then the final episode wraps it up like perfectly, and you're like, I don't even know how it wrapped up every character resolution, and it fit the story so well, but it didn't feel rushed, and it just did it so good. Yeah. And I could just, I think it's really good character telling, and it makes you feel for the main character more than I felt for any main character, even my number one show.
Wow.
And that's why it's my number 2.
That's incredible. That makes me want to see it. Like, I've never had a reaction to a show or movie that way.
It's so, and what makes me realize, even Tristan, who's very, he picks apart details, and he does to this show, but this and my number one show are the only other 2 shows I've been able to get him to watch, and he's actually enjoyed.
Really?
Because he's a very harsh critic.
Yeah, I can see that with him.
But these are the only 2 shows that I've been able to get him to watch because they're really good at. They're just that.
Right.
So I think it's the greatest piece of character storytelling I've seen.
That's pretty cool. All right. Well,
number 1. I think I know your.
Right,
Oh yeah,
I
I do
know
know your
number
number 1. You've hinted towards it too.
yeah, my number 1 movie is the Barbie movie.
What?
I'm just.
Is the Barbie? I'm just Ken.
Oh my gosh!
The greatest character known to mankind.
No,
Ken.
I'm joking. It's
Better than Thorfinn.
My number 1 has got to be Interstellar, by Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all knew it.
I
knew it.
have that whole entire soundtrack in my playlist. I have wallpapers on my phone.
You do.
About Interstellar. I have watched that show only 4 times. And
movie.
every single time I have a different perspective on the
That's
whole
really good.
movie. Every time I watch the movie, it's like watching a different movie. And that's what I love about it. I remember you talking about how it was too complex for you, like Interstellar was? Interstellar for me is perfect that way because I can watch it.
I totally get that because it's that same thing as what I was saying about my top 2 shows where rewatching it feels like a different experience.
Yeah.
And I see how Interstellar does that.
Yeah. And another big part of Interstellar is the fact that it's realistic. Now here's the thing. I've been talking about how movies are good when they're realistic, right?
Yes.
But Interstellar does this very strange thing that no really other movie has done for me. Where, yes, it's realistic, but I can also see the fiction in it. Now, usually, when a movie is trying to be realistic and there's fiction, basically like any King Kong or like Jurassic Park, it's like realistic, but there's obviously fiction. That fiction drags it down and makes it less of a movie, in my opinion. Like, not as good of a movie.
Yeah.
But
They just kind of
Interstellar...
contradict each other.
Yeah, exactly. But Interstellar does this very rare thing to me, where the fiction plays into the realism. That I've never seen that in any other movie. Like, it's obvious that we have no idea what it would be like to go into a black hole. We wouldn't be able to survive going into a black hole from what we know.
Yeah, from what we know.
But the way that Christopher Nolan creates this idea of a black hole is entirely fictitious.
But it makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Still. Like, it's a little difficult for me to describe, I guess, but it just makes it so lovable because it makes me feel like I can understand super complex things, even though it's all like entirely false and not true at all. But
it's very thought out.
Gosh. Yeah,
it's very thought out.
It's so complex, and I remember the second time I watched it, I was like, "Oh yeah, this was a cool movie." That was when I really like fell in love with the movie. Was because I realized just how complex. I started to understand greater like the plot. I didn't even understand the actual plot of the movie.
Yeah.
The first time I watched it because it was so confusing.
Yeah.
And it has, like I said, incredible soundtrack by Hans Zimmer.
Great.
Incredible acting.
Death.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that
Matthew
song.
McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey.
Freaking solid.
All right.
Love that guy. There's also what's the guy? It's Albert and he's in literally every single Christian.
Finn McMissile.
Yeah, he's in every single Christopher Nolan movie like ever.
Yeah,
Forgot
he's
his name.
the Leonardo DiCaprio's dad.
Yeah.
Dad or mom's dad?
I don't know what he was in that.
He's the grandpa.
Yeah, he's in that one. He's also in that one Christopher Nolan movie that also had Christian Bale, but it was like it also had the one with Hugh Jackman. The one where it's like magicians and stuff. Have you seen that one?
No. Oh,
It's
I know my
another
honorable mention. I've been trying to think of my honorable mention the entire time. I know what one it is.
But yeah, that guy's in. Incredible actors, incredible soundtrack, incredible cinematography.
Yeah.
I don't know how they did such a good job. I really would love to learn how they filmed Interstellar.
Yeah. It's really good.
But yeah,
I've grown an appreciation for cinematography much more since I've been learning it recently because it's what I want to go into.
Right.
And know what shots are called and what zoom in and zoom out. Like I know their actual names and stuff. Like it's just much more, and it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's really really hard.
Right.
So it's very. No, it's just cinematography. Just it's wild.
Mm-hmm.
And something I love that I heard, it's because a lot of great movies, they kind of break the rules of cinematography.
Yeah.
Because there's like rule of thirds, always have something in the third, and like that works. But in some great movies, they kind of break the rules, but they break the rules in a way where they're still following the. It's really weird, and it's hard to describe. But the best way I heard it was like, you have to be so good at the rules for you to use the rules to end up breaking them. And that's what I think great cinematography does. Is they're doing the rules so well, basically in some weird way where it ends up breaking them, where it still works and gives an emotion, and how just a camera angle can give you an emotion it's just so fascinating. Yeah. And Interstellar does great in that.
Yeah, I agree. There's always that edge that becomes the new norm, and you have to break norms to change and to push that edge, for sure. Yeah.
Do you know what I just realized?
What?
You're supposed to do your honorable mention first.
That's fine.
Whatever. Do you want to do your honorable mention, or I'll do my honorable mention first? I
forgot mine, so you can do yours.
I know yours.
Well, I mentioned one.
I'm pretty sure you hinted towards one. Is it not Spider-Verse?
Oh yeah, wait, it was going to be. I forgot.
Yeah, I thought you were like, because I'm like Miles, and you're like, oh, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah. My honorable mention.
Your honorable mention?
Not
into or across?
Into, but across.
I agree.
Okay, but that's across so difficult. Choosing between the two is so
really? I don't think it's that difficult.
Like, obviously, I will make the choice that Across the Spider-Verse is better, in my opinion. Yeah, but Across the Spider-Verse is so good because it was set up by Into the Spider-Verse.
That's true. I agree with
Across the Spider-Verse is only as good as it is because Into the Spider-Verse came before it.
That is true. Across the Spider-Verse is just better. It's how I feel about Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. I think it's better than Breath of the Wild, but it's only as better than Breath of the Wild because Breath of the Wild exists.
Yes. Yeah, that's entirely fair.
So,
we'll talk about that on another podcast.
Games. Yeah, but no, I mean, greatest animation in cinema history.
Yes,
just
entirely.
Great.
Entirely.
So good.
So incredible.
That's I love Across the Spider-Verse more because it made me feel for the characters a lot more. Yeah. It made me actually care about them, and that's a great honorable mention.
The ending, though,
the ending
actually kind of pissed me off.
Really, I love it.
I hate the ending, but I know for a fact once the third movie comes out, it's gonna make it better.
No, because I think Across the Spider-Verse has the potential to be one of the greatest trilogies ever.
Yes, entirely.
If the next movie is like amazing, I think it really does have the potential to be one of the greatest trilogies.
Yeah.
And I love Across the Spider-Verse ending because one, I love cliffhangers. Cliffhangers don't bother me.
Yeah.
I love them.
This one did, just because it wasn't really a cliffhanger. It was more, let's go do this, and then it was done. It was like, it wasn't even a cliffhanger. It was just like an unfinished story.
Yeah.
So
I do agree with the arcing story. Yeah, it's not finished, but that's why it's gonna be a great trilogy. And two, I think the kind of beginning and end of the movie was more about Gwen.
That's true. This one did focus a lot.
It focused, and the movie, I think what it was trying to do is it started with Gwen, and it showed her conflict with her dad.
Yes.
And the movie ended with that. It ended.
That's true.
Resolving that conflict that the movie started with.
That's a good point.
The overarching story is not over, and it does feel unfinished that way, but that's because it straight up is.
Yeah.
And so what I think the movie's conclusion, I think, is more about Gwen, and I think it does that.
Yeah.
The trilogy's conclusion is far from over, though.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
100%.
it's gonna be, it has the potential to be amazing. Just incredible.
I really hope that the third movie lives up to the first two. I have no doubts that it will.
It's gonna be good, no matter what. Like, it's just, it's gonna be a good movie. It's just...
I just hope it's as good as I want it to be, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Which is tough. Expectations are astronomically high, and even unrealistic to some extent.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be really interesting.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, my honorable mention is Now You See Me.
I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen that?
I have not. You talked about it, but I haven't seen it.
Love movie. Love that movie. It's kind of a heist movie about magicians. So, you've never... You know what this is about. Like, about the magicians and whatnot?
Now You See Me?
Yeah.
Maybe I have. Isn't that the one, like in the ending, they're, like, in this big building? And there's, like, helicopters, and there's, like, lights, and there's, like, a TV. Yes. That movie?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then I have seen that movie.
Yeah. I love that movie.
Yeah, that is a good movie. I watched it at your house.
Yeah, I told you. That's why I was shocked when you said you didn't have it.
Yeah.
I haven't. Because we watched that movie as a friend group, like, multiple times.
Yeah. That show ties into, like, Ocean's 11.
Yeah, I think...
I love that, yeah.
I think this embodies why I love heist movies.
Yeah.
I love heist movies. My favorite Marvel movie is Ant-Man, which is a heist movie.
That's true.
But, I love Now You See Me. It's so fun. The characters, like, they're all bad people, but you're just like, I kind of like you.
Yeah.
And, what's his name? I don't know. Finn McMissel's in it. That's what made me realize that's my honorable mention, because I love this movie. I think this movie is just so fun. It's a movie that I watch and I just have fun watching it every single time.
Yeah. And
it does really good. It has a great twist ending. It tells its full story. It comes full circle. And it's just, I think it's just so fun. And the beginning of the movie is one of the greatest hooks of a movie I've ever seen, where it does the magic trick and it works on you.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, where it does the magic trick and you're like, wait, that actually was my card. And you're like, how? How did a movie do that? Because obviously
that's a good point.
There's an explanation for the trick. That's why it's a trick. But, like, the fact that it just worked and that's how you start off the movie, it gives you the, like, you know what you're getting into. You know it's about magic. It's really fascinating to do a heist movie, but doing it, like, with magic and deception and everything like that. And seeing how they do it and how there's an explanation to everything they do.
That's a good
and there's
point.
kind of mini heists and magic tricks into this larger heist.
Yeah.
And they explain it every time. And you're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely, the whole, like, the good hook plays into, like, a factor of cinema that really speaks to me.
Sure.
I feel like movies that capture your attention from the beginning. There's some movies that pull you along with them, and there's some movies that you have to take with you. If that makes sense. Like, with some movies, it starts out slow, and you have to, like, invest time into it, right? And, like, at the end, it's worth it. But, like, in the beginning, it's kind of not that exciting. But then there's other movies where right from the get-go, you are sucked into it.
That's true.
It just takes you with the story.
Yeah.
And you just go for a ride.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
The movie is an actual ride.
Yeah.
And I love movies like that. I'd so much rather watch a movie that takes me for a ride than a movie where I have to put forth effort to enjoy the movie.
That's true. I get both. I think there's two ways. I think you can love both movies both ways. Because,
yeah.
for, I think, two examples of it. One, where I think Inception and Interstellar, those are very active movies where you're thinking about it.
Yes.
Or those are my favorite because of that. And then there's one of the movies I have the funnest time watching, Venom. I think that movie's awful. Honestly, terrible movie. I have a heck of a time watching it though. Like, it's one of my favorite movies to just watch and just turn brain off and have fun.
Yeah.
I think it's an awful movie, but I love it. I love that movie.
Yeah.
So I think there is that aspect of, I love complex movies, but sometimes you just need a Venom,
a dummy movie.
a dumb movie where it's just dumb action. And you're like, yeah, this is fun. I don't know why.
That's true.
So, yeah. And then, my number one.
Your number one.
Attack on Titan.
No! I know! My number one. TV show, anime, movie, story, whatever you want to call it.
Attack on Titan. I think it has done everything I've talked about in this episode perfectly.
Really?
That's
a lot.
I think the worst, actually, the ending just came out. Ending, is the weakest part of the entire show.
Really?
I think the ending's the weakest part. I don't think it's bad. It's not perfect. I think the ending's the only thing I wouldn't call perfect because it's a little messy. It's a little clumsy at landing, but it did it enough where I'm satisfied with it, and it closed it in a way where I'm like, yeah, I'm satisfied.
Right.
But up to the ending, perfect. I think it's perfect. Foreshadowing, animation is amazing. It's so fun. Characters are just everything. It's everything I've said. Music just hits you. That's just. I could say everything I've said in this entire episode about Attack on Titan, and I love it. I love that show.
Yeah, there's
and I will bring it up in this entire podcast for absolutely no reason and whatever we're talking about. I will do it. I have probably already have done it.
Yes, you have. You have.
I love Attack on Titan. I can relate it to anything, and it's given me some of the greatest post-movie conversations I've ever had, and it's just Attack on Titan.
I can't say much about it because I haven't. I'm not a super big.
You're not an anime guy.
Yeah. I've watched it, but I've never taken that upon my character. No. At least to the degree that you have.
No, and honestly, like, it was just my anime phase. Eighth grade to
now.
No, not even now. No, let me defend myself. Not even now. 8th grade was my anime phase because that's when I watched Naruto and watched all 720 episodes of that.
Holy.
Yeah, and watched 40 anime. I have like a list on my phone of all the anime I watched, and there's 42 on there.
Whoa.
35 of them was in 8th grade.
Wow.
Like 8th grade was my anime obsession phase, and it's when I watched Attack on Titan for the first time too.
Right.
And I think what just ended up happening was Attack on Titan ended up being my favorite just show period. And I'm very open about the things I love.
Yeah.
Just in general. And of course that just ended up being anime. And so now everyone got this perception of the huge weeb I am. Yeah. But honestly, I haven't watched an anime. And the most recent anime I've watched was Vinland Saga. And that was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Which not that long ago, but before Vinland Saga, the last show I probably watched was a rewatch of Attack on Titan. And before that, like, I really haven't watched a lot of anime since.
Right.
I just watched so much in 8th grade, and then my favorite shows ended up being anime, where that's where...
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's what people know me by.
I get that. I've never, like... You're an anime guy, but I've never really viewed you as an anime guy.
Yeah.
You know? Like, there's people who are always just, that's what they live and breathe. But for you, you're just an appreciator of it.
It's more of, I live and breathe Attack on Titan because I love Attack on Titan specifically.
Yeah.
And just because I very much show and talk about the things I love in a moment.
Right.
And it just happened to be anime, and that's people, the typical human judgment of stuff.
Yeah, I
that's
get that.
what's happened. And then there's you get your hate from it.
Yeah.
You get your bullying from it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because no one, people think anime is weird, which I don't think it is, obviously. But I don't think I'm as much of an anime fan as people think I am. I just my favorite things just happen to be anime, and that's what I talk about.
Yeah, I totally get that. You could be more like Joe, and instead of anime, it's rom-com. You know?
See, exactly. I
totally get
if
that.
it wasn't Attack on Titan, it definitely would, definitely Inception. Well, I do talk about Inception a lot.
That's true, you do.
I really do, and it just I talk about Attack on Titan more because I like it more. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, you don't like it because it's an anime. You
And
like it because
it's the same thing.
good.
Video games, Zelda. I talk about Zelda all the time.
Yeah.
But that's just because I love it.
Right. Yeah.
I love those Zelda.
Yeah, that's perfectly understandable.
So, I love Attack on Titan. I don't know. So now that we're talking about it, I don't know what to say about it now. But it's just.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've said so much about it. There's not a ton that
and
you
I will
can
say
say about
I
it.
will say so much more about it.
Yeah.
In this podcast, and I will relate it to almost anything we ever talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Those were our a little longer episode.
It is a longer episode.
I was trying to wrap it up.
Yeah, there's more to talk about. We knew from the second that we decided we were gonna do a podcast, we knew this was gonna be a special. This
is our first special.
Yeah.
The movie episode.
Our specials are
special. The special are longer episodes.
We'll keep the specials to a half an hour longer.
Half an
That's
hour.
just what it ended up being today.
So yeah, those were our top fives. I knew we were both nerds about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And you know, we disclaimer: not all the stuff we say could be true. You know,
because we don't know.
Because we don't know. I said, "Oh, well, Tron Legacy was actually released in 2009." I don't know that. That's a guess.
So. Yeah.
In the end, we don't know, but we do know that cinema is something that we can really connect with, and it's
it can
something
shape.
special.
I think it can shape you.
It does.
It really
entirely does.
Dude, honestly, as much as a meme of I have no enemies is, I actually that has changed my life. Not a joke.
Seriously,
a joke.
I totally get
after
that.
watching that show and then seeing that. I mean, we recorded it last night and sent it in our group chat as a meme.
Yeah.
But the first time watching that scene, actual goosebumps.
Yeah.
And that scene has actually changed my outlook on things that go on in our group and stuff. Just trying to live life with no enemies.
Yeah. And
So
it's universal too. Cinema's universal. It can give people emotions despite culture, country of origin, demographics, religion, age, all that stuff. So yeah, we like movies.
We like movies. We like watching stuff. We like feeling.
We do.
We like feeling. That's how I would say it.
Emotionally driven.
That's actually true.
Yeah.
Well, now we're just dragging.
Bye.